My man Ron G.
What's up with you?
Sit down at the table.
Yes, sir.
That's the way to get it started.
Oh, no doubt, man.
Yeah, I got my little notes.
Oh, okay.
Ain't nobody see that on the camera. We gonna
All good, man.
ride this conversation. I call him Ron G.
You know, it's all good, man.
My man Ron G. You want a bottle of water or something?
Nah, I'm
You got your coffee?
I got some coffee.
Okay, I'm a little late to the table, but we gonna keep it going. We doing everything live and uncut. I got the video going. You grab me some water. I don't want to put no free advertising on this joint, so let me get this off of here.
You know, cause somebody always trying to make some
Yeah. So they can't get that, but they can.
It's all
We
good.
from Ohio. We
Got
got
some Nike on, though.
Yeah, everybody wearing Nike, right?
Right.
So let's get into it, man. This is episode number 1. Cleveland Streets. Journeys and stories. Call it what you want. But I'm gonna talk to the people that I know. Been knowing this guy right here for quite some time. Since the early 80s?
Early 80s.
We grew up in the same neighborhood. However, he was from a further, well, let's say what the young kids call it now. I was in the 30s, he was in the 40s. So even though we was on Kinsman, he was like on 145th, 146th.
My mother, we 146 in Kinsman.
146 in Kinsman. I stayed on 134th in Kinsman. So we like 10, 15 blocks away from each other. But we'll get into that other part of the story later on.
Right.
But right now, man, thank you for coming.
Most definitely. It's always an honor and privilege, you know, to break bread with you, my brother.
Appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's get right into it, man. Just want to ask you a couple questions, man, about your journey, bro. Like, how was your childhood?
Man, listen, you know, childhood was good, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I grew up with a mother and father, but you know, my father was in Chicago, my mother was in Cleveland. So later on down the line, a long time ago, my father had met my mother in Cleveland because my grandmother sent him up here because he got in some trouble in Chicago. So he had some family members, and then he went to high school, met my mother, and had me, and then my brother, but then he was went to the Marines. So that's how it got started. They was married and divorced. It was shaky, but you know, we both had that mother and father in our lives, but they wasn't together.
Okay. So you got a brother? You got any other sisters? Any other siblings?
Check this out. This is a funny thing. I got a brother. We 18 months apart.
Okay.
And then I got a sister that I'm 9 days older than her. So my birthday February 10th. Her birthday February 19th.
Okay.
You do the math. I wasn't there. I don't know.
Right.
But I just know that's what they told us.
Right.
So
same year, everything.
So that that was the old man. You know.
That's what's
You
up.
know what I'm saying?
That's what's up, right? So you said you was brought up by your mom. Your father was traveling. You almost probably became a military brat.
Nah, man, I was too,
You know what a military brat is?
Yeah. No, it wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't gonna happen that way because, like, for instance, even so, before that, we lived on Harvard. My grandmother had a house on Harvard, Joanne.
Okay.
On Joanne was like where they grew up at.
Mm-hmm.
So my grandmother had this house, and my mother and my auntie and everybody stayed there. And we kind of branched out.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I had a cousin. You probably know my cousin. He stayed there too. Lucky he stayed there. Then his mother, they moved on my house. Then we moved on Kinsman. So grandma and them and my grandfather, he was a follower of Malcolm X to the day he died.
Okay.
So that was the Islamic part in the household.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That we were taught.
So lucky you caught that, man. I got your name on this camera, man. You know I'm gonna get you in, man. I know you. So when I want to get you at this table, we'll get a better table. This the first.
Yeah.
We're gonna get into it, man. So what elementary school did you go to?
Well, I went to L.A. Stevenson. That was up on Harvard. You know, they rebuilt it. You see how they rebuilt it up on Harvard?
Is that the new Kennedy?
No. On L.A. Stevenson was Joanne. Remember, you've been to my grandmother's house. Remember up there on Harvard and Joanne? 176.
Wait, so you go 176, so that's
go up Glendale,
Joanne,
and then remember L.A. Stevenson? Remember they had the old school there, then they tore that down and rebuilt it and put it closer?
Yeah, see that's why we having this conversation, because remember we was a little bit down the way.
Yeah, it's down
so I went to Robert Fulton Elementary School.
Right, see, yeah.
So then when you go to junior high school?
So
What was your junior high school?
I went to Baker for a minute.
That on the east side or west side?
Baker was the west side.
West side?
Baker.
Okay.
And then I went to Elliott.
Okay.
Well, what happened was I was going to Baker, but then once we moved out that house and I moved to Kinsman, that area was going to Elliott.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
So I got a quick question about getting bused. And that's one of my questions during these interviews. Because I remember my mom and my pops, they bought a house on 134th in Kinsman. My elementary school, I'll say that, was 5 blocks away, walking distance. But my junior high school was right at the corner of my street.
Right.
But then they started busing. So getting into your story, you say you was getting bused to the west side. What was it like interacting with the white people when you first started getting busted? Because again, this was the era when the busing had first started.
Right. So I gotta go back a little bit because I missed something.
Okay.
So with my mother and my father was always trying to make it happen, you know, me and my brother ended back up in Chicago. We was always going back and forth to Chicago every Christmas and every summer, you know, to visit.
Okay.
But then when my mother and my father was trying to make it happen, he would move his family down there, but my mother and my father couldn't get along. So we was going back and forth. So we kind of like had to go in, you know, going to different schools and come in half a year based on that right there.
Okay.
So that's important is being stable.
Okay.
But that's no excuse that why I jumped off the porch.
Right.
Because they was working with the best that they had to work with based on
the
trauma and they, you know, trying to make it happen and trying to do it for the kids. And that was important for me to tell you that part that I missed.
Okay. Now
go back to the question that you asked me was basically the bus